Hello, everyone. My name is Bengai Jeranyama. I'm here with the Massachusetts Attorney General's office. We were going to give it a little bit more time to allow some of the late arrivals to start in, but you know what? I'm just going to start this presentation because the first part of it's kind of an introduction to our office, and then we'll get into more of the professional fundraising and best practices for giving wisely. Thank you again for signing up and actually logging into the webinar. We really appreciate it. I'm here with my colleague, Emily. Want to say hello?
Good morning.
And Sean.
Good morning.
Both from our nonprofit organizations and public charities division. They're going to be talking more about the professional fundraising piece a little bit later in the presentation. My name is Bengai Jeranyama. I'm a program manager within our community engagement division. And I'm going to give you a little bit of overview of our office. But before that, I just want to give you a heads up. If you have any technical issues, if you can't hear very clearly what we're saying, if you're having any issues with Join Me, our program assistant, Ava, is waiting. You can call her at 617-963-2541. Once again, that's 617-963-2541. And she would be more than happy to help you out with any technical questions. Now, if you have any questions about the actual subjects, about what we're going to be talking about today in our presentation, please utilize the chat function. Our presenters are going to be monitoring the chat function to see if any questions come in throughout the presentation. It really does help out, answer questions that maybe other people have as well. So use the chat function, and we'll try to answer the questions to the best of our abilities throughout the presentation. One more thing, this presentation is being recorded, and we'll send out a link to the actual recorded version of this presentation in about a week and a half. But today we'll be sending out a PDF copy of this presentation along with any other handout materials as well. We'll be sending out a survey as well. Please take the time to fill that out. It's about 8 questions, 1 minute each. It really does help us better our webinars, so we really appreciate that. So without anything else, we'll go into the presentation right now. So I'm going to give you a little bit of overview of the Attorney General and our office and what we do. What you'll see right here is our boss. It's the Attorney General, Maura Healy. She's the Chief Lawyer and Law Enforcement Officer of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And back in 2014, when she was first running for Attorney General, she went throughout different communities throughout Massachusetts, talked to a lot of people about her vision for the state and what her office can do. And a lot of people were very excited about what she was saying. But they said, you know what? I like what you're saying, but I don't really know how the Attorney General's office can really help out my community, my family, or myself. So when she came into office, she created our division, the Community Engagement Division, to bring the resources of our office throughout the state. It can be giving out presentations. It can be putting on programs such as our wage theft clinics that we host in Boston, in Springfield, and New Bedford, or debt collection clinics that we host throughout the state as well. It can be things like today, like a webinar where we have people throughout our office give out information and give out resources to best help you and your organization and your community as well. So if you would like us to actually come into your organization, maybe give out a training, or if you're wondering how you can connect or partner up with the Massachusetts Attorney General's office, please let us know. We'd be more than willing to either come into your community or partner with you. Who do we serve and how do we serve? We serve 3 different tiers of people, right? As long as you live in Massachusetts, regardless of your gender, your race, your national origin, immigration status, or whatever, we serve you and your public interest. We also serve groups of consumers. If we see a big company, say, is not adhering to Massachusetts general laws on fair labor and workers' rights, our office can come on behalf of that, investigate the situation, and try to remedy the situation for the workers and to make sure that the organization does follow the law. We also get a lot of people asking us about, hey, I have this private issue. Can you actually have one of your attorneys help and be one of my attorneys in a case? Unfortunately, we cannot represent individuals in cases, and one of the reasons is we do have a constitutional duty to represent departments, officers, and other commissions on the state level as well. But we do serve the residents of the Commonwealth and everyone's public interest as a whole. We do this through 4 major ways, and I kind of like to look at it as 2 different ways. At the top, you'll see that we have investigations and enforcement. That's kind of your traditional law enforcement way, right? We look at Massachusetts general laws, and we make sure bad actors are out there doing bad things, that we actually look into it and we try to stop that. And that can be through investigation, that can be enforcement, we can bring lawsuits, and we can investigate issues. But we try to make sure that people know about what their rights are under the law, but also what their responsibilities under the laws. So we try to do a lot of prevention work. That can be like today, where we teach people about professional fundraising and other things about nonprofit and public charities kind of operations. It can be going in and letting people know about scams, identity theft. It can be letting businesses know about what they have to provide under workers' rights in Massachusetts. And we also do that through policy. We receive a lot of complaints. We receive a lot of different written documents coming to our office, and we interact with a lot of people throughout the state. We use all of that to inform what we think laws should be in Massachusetts, and if there needs to be any type of regulatory changes, or if we need to advocate for a change in the law to best represent Massachusetts and the public interest of people that live here. This next slide is about our Public Protection and Advocacy Bureau. They're one of our most public-facing bureaus. When you call our office, most likely you'll be directed towards the Public Protection and Advocacy Bureau. They help out with things like protecting students against predatory for-profit schools, ensuring workers that they get paid, fighting for consumers against scams and other deceptive business practices. It includes our divisions such as our Consumer Protection Division, our Civil Rights Division, which makes sure that civil rights in Massachusetts are upheld and adhered to. Our Consumer Advocacy and Response Division, which if you call a general hotline, you'll be directed right to them, and many others that are here to help out. And I want to let you know about where our office is located. We're not just located in Boston, although we do have 2 locations right near the State House at 1 Ashburn Place and 100 Cambridge Street. But we're in downtown New Bedford. We're in downtown Worcester. We also have offices in downtown Springfield. If you're in those areas or those greater areas, please come to our office if you need any assistance or help. We'll be more than willing to help out with that. But again, like I said beforehand, my division, the Community Engagement Division, we're trying to make sure that the people in our office aren't just in our office, but we're going out to different communities. That can be going from Pittsfield, that can be going to Manchester by the Sea, that can be going to Barnstable, that can be going Fall River, and anywhere in between, right? If you have an organization or a community group, you need assistance, you need someone to give a training about scams, identity theft, on wage theft, on workers' rights, on landlord-tenant issues. Our office is more than willing to do that. We can also bring in mediators, paralegals, legal analysts, assistant attorney generals, and others from our office to come in and help you out with filing complaints and knowing what your rights are under the laws as well. But now I'm going to get into the meat and potatoes of the presentation, and I have my 2 colleagues from our nonprofit and Public Charities Division, and they're going to be talking more about that. So I'm going to hand it over to them Thank you again for being a part of our webinar.
Good morning. My name is Emily Cabral. I'm an Assistant Attorney General in our Nonprofit Organizations Public Charities Division. Happy to be here this morning to talk with you all. Just wanted to give you a brief overview of what our division is. We're part of the Healthcare and Fair Competition Bureau here at the Attorney General's office. And technically our role is to see to the due application of charitable funds and to prevent breaches of trust in their administration. Effectively what that means is that we seek to support transparency and accountability with public charities here in the state of Massachusetts. But we also handle situations where we find bad actors, where we see misappropriation of charitable funds, and when that needs to be prevented or remedied. We really do that through three mechanisms, through education, law enforcement, and regulation. First and foremost, our division is here to be a support to the charitable sector. We like to provide education and guidance. As the old saying goes, when in doubt, reach out. If your organization or you as an individual have any questions, we have a hotline in our charities division that you can call, and we hope to help charities stay on the right track before they head into trouble. However, when we do find charities or charitable actors in bad spots, we are the law enforcement officer for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and are here to protect the administration of charitable funds. That law enforcement role can find itself as informal as us reaching out and helping to right the ship, so to speak, through monitoring or governance agreements. Sometimes takes the form of more formal investigations or civil investigative demands. And when necessary, we do pursue lawsuits to protect the charitable interests of those organizations here in Massachusetts. Our third role is that of regulators. And to talk you through what that looks like for our division, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Sean.
Thanks, Emily. So as Emily said, I'm going to cover some of the regulatory filings and compliance issues associated with both charitable organizations and various types of fundraisers operating in Massachusetts. So first, in terms of charitable organizations and their requirements, all public charities in Massachusetts are subject to registration and annual filing requirements with the Attorney General's office. The term public charity refers to nonprofit entities that are organized and operating for a mission that is deemed to be charitable. And in other words, that's a mission that is providing a benefit to an indefinite group of people. So that can be compared to a non-charitable nonprofit that is not benefiting the greater public. An example of that might be a local food bank, which has a mission to help feed the needy and providing a benefit to the greater community, compared to a neighborhood social club or maybe a condo association that also is organized for nonprofit purposes, but the idea or the mission behind that is to provide a benefit solely to the members within that closed group. So that's the differences between charitable nonprofits and non-charitable nonprofits. And charitable nonprofits, public charities, are subject to annual filing requirements as well as an initial process. And that initial process includes submitting governing documents to our office. So that would be typically the bylaws or articles of incorporation, articles of organization. In the absence of those, a mission statement for the organization, the IRS designation letter if the group has obtained tax-exempt status from the IRS, as well as a filing fee, an initial filing fee of $100. On an annual basis, all of these organizations, all public charities in Massachusetts, are required to file a Form PC with our office. PC obviously stands for Public Charity. It's about a 12 or 14-page form. Many of those questions and pages are not applicable to all organizations. And it asks questions, high-level questions about the organization, its contact information, mailing address, but also financial information about revenues that were collected in that reporting year, donations that were received, expenses that were made in support of the organization's mission and things like that. For organizations that have revenues over $5,000, their IRS Form 990 is required to be attached. And similarly, for organizations that have revenues over $200,000, they're required to submit reviewed financial statements. And finally, over $500,000, they're required to submit financial statements that have been audited by a certified public accountant. All of these requirements are really in support of our mission to provide transparency and accountability in this sector. So those filings, the annual filings, and some of the governing documents are all available on our public database, and can be used by members of the public or people looking to vet organizations that they'd like to support. Charities are also subject to filing or notice requirements at other points in their life cycle, such as when they are selling or transferring significant assets, such as a large piece of property, maybe the building that they operate out of. They're required to provide notice to our office, and we assess some of the terms of that transaction and ensure that it is fair on the side of the charity. Additionally, as organizations evolve, they're required to submit any updates or amendments to their governing documents. Oftentimes, some organizations or institutions have funds that are restricted. For example, maybe a scholarship fund that has very specific requirements, and they will work with our office to petition the court to either modify or deviate from those restrictions. Also, when charities vote, the boards of charities vote to dissolve and close their doors, that's also a process that involves our office and the court. There are two paths for those dissolutions. The first being administrative dissolutions, where the charity does not have any assets remaining and is able to be dissolved through our office. And then when assets do remain, it's a similar process with our office, but involves a petition to the Supreme Judicial Court with respect to the assets that are remaining and a transfer to an organization that has agreed to use them in a similar manner. The next area is going to be somewhat of a focus of this presentation is professional fundraising and some of the regulatory requirements associated with that. So there are three types of fundraising businesses. First, professional fundraisers are individuals or companies that are paid to solicit for donations on behalf of charitable organizations. So this would include businesses that you might imagine familiar with, the ones that solicit over the phone, through direct mailings, or in-person solicitations or fundraising on the street. In recent years, we've seen this industry evolve to include other forms of fundraising, maybe less traditional forms, such as campaigns seeking used items or clothing that are then resold to raise money for charities, and various forms of online campaigns and internet platforms and donor-advised funds. Some of those things we'll touch on later in the presentation. But professional solicitors can be compensated in a number of different ways, that whether that's a percentage of the donations that are raised, or a per call or per mailing fee, maybe hourly, or just a flat fee for their services. But it's important to point out that this definition of professional fundraiser generally does not include individuals who are employees of charitable organizations that conduct fundraising as part of their jobs, or grant writers, or even volunteers for organizations that are fundraising, because they're not compensated for that work and therefore not fall under our statutory definition of professional fundraisers. The second type is commercial co-ventures, and these are instances where for-profit companies conduct promotions or events, campaigns that benefit a particular charity or a specific charitable cause. And we all likely see these on a daily basis. For example, a local restaurant that's promoting an event where a portion of proceeds might be donated to a local charity, or maybe a cereal box that says for every purchase a 5-cent donation will be made to an organization fighting hunger, something along those lines. But the requirement to register as a commercial co-venture is not tied to the donation being made or the financial arrangement as much as it is tied to the representations that are being made to the public about those donations or the for-profit support for that charitable organization. So, in other words, a for-profit company can make a donation to a charitable organization or decide to donate a portion of their revenues to a charity without having to register. But once they promote that fact to the public, they're subject to state oversight and filing requirements as a commercial co-venture. The final type of business in this area is professional fundraising counsel. This is a designation for people or companies that advise charities in the area of fundraising strategy and donor retention and other consulting services related to fundraising. This generally does not include individuals who are retained for specific grant writing services or to apply for a particular grant. It's more so intended for people or companies that provide broader advisory services in the area of fundraising. So all three of these designations require annual registration and then also registration for each specific campaign that they're engaged in. So the annual registration process consists of a registration form, a filing fee. That filing fee varies depending on the designation that is being registered. So, for example, it's $1,000 annually for professional fundraisers, $200 for commercial co-ventures, and $400 for professional fundraising councils. Additionally, professional fundraisers and commercial co-ventures are required to obtain a $25,000 surety bond in order to conduct these campaigns in Massachusetts. And this can be thought of similar to an insurance policy that's on file with the Attorney General's office in the event that there is some bad conduct involved with the campaign, or if there were deceptive representations made to the public and the campaign is not conducted as it should. So the registration forms and the terms of the campaign are all available on these campaign registration forms. Also information about the representations that will be made to the public, the portion of funds that is expected to go to charity, and a copy of the contract between the for-profit and the charity is also included as part of this registration. Finally, the results of each of these campaigns for professional fundraisers and commercial co-ventures in the year following the campaign is reported on the Form 11B. So this would show a good comparison of how the campaign was registered compared to the amount of money that was actually raised and was actually transferred to the charitable organization. So one way that we utilize the data from these filings is for the Attorney General's annual report on professional fundraisers. This is released each year on Giving Tuesday, which is Tuesday after Thanksgiving. This year is November 27th. And the report includes data from all professional fundraising campaigns that were registered in the previous year. So this enables the public to research the companies and individuals that are soliciting them for donations and get an idea about exactly how much of their donation would go to charity or went to charity in the prior year. So we use this data to look for possible trends in the fundraising sector and educate the public about their options for donating to or supporting their favorite charities. Here's a comparison chart that we include as part of our annual report. It shows the average split between funds retained by professional fundraisers and funds transferred to charities. As you can see, the average amount varies from year to year, but it's consistently shown averages greater than 50% of funds raised being retained by the professional fundraiser. We had a question come up about what I mean when I say campaign, so I'll back up a little bit to the discussion about the annual registration requirements and the campaign registration requirements. So, for example, a professional fundraiser as a company or as an individual registers just once on an annual basis, and that's where they submit the registration form, the filing fee, and the surety bond. And once that process is complete, the professional fundraiser can register an unlimited number of campaigns under that registration. So, for example, a professional fundraiser might have campaigns for the local food bank or other types of advocacy organizations or community-based organizations. So they can operate campaigns for a number of different charities under that same annual registration. So campaign just refers to the work being done by the professional fundraiser for a specific charity.
Sean, do you want to explain what type of information professional fundraisers tell us about each campaign when they register that campaign?
Sure. Yeah, the campaign registration form includes details about, when the campaign will be conducted, whether that is in a single, month or spans many years. It contains estimates for what the professional fundraiser and the charity expect to raise as part of this campaign. Some of the representations that will be made to the public about where that money will be going. Also attached to that is the contract between the charity and the professional fundraiser. In the cases of telephone solicitations or fundraisers, the script that is being used on those phone calls is also required to be submitted as part of that registration. So again, it's really, these requirements are in place to support our goals of transparency and accountability. So when people are solicited for donations, they can go on our website and get more information about how that campaign is registered and what company is conducting that. So just going back to this chart very quickly here, like I said, it's a comparison of year to year, the funds raised by professional solicitors. The most recent year, 2016, shows slightly more of a portion of funds being retained by professional solicitors. And again, the 2017 report will be coming out in the following weeks, so it'll be interesting to see how that compares to past years.
And I just want to remind everyone that if you have any other additional questions, please feel free to ask them using the chat function. That's the best way to send it out, and Emily or Sean will be more than happy to answer your questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, this is just highlighting some of the stats from the 2016 Professional Fundraiser Bulletin. I know that sounds like it was ancient history, 2016, but like I said, we spend the majority of this year analyzing the data from the past year, which was calendar year 2017, and as a reminder, we'll be issuing that report on November 27th. So there's another plug for our annual report. In recent years, we've also identified some outliers that we've excluded from the data, and these are entities that, while they do meet our statutory definition for professional fundraiser, we found that they operate in ways that are different than traditional fundraisers and had the potential to skew the overall data. Examples of these outliers, as I think I had alluded to before, companies that collect tangible items like used clothing, and financial firms that have affiliated donor-advised funds as options for their clients' investment portfolios. I think as time goes on, we expect to find new and unique forms of professional fundraising and new platforms to reach potential donors. Much of the data included in this report is surprising or disappointing at times to the public when they see the portion of funds that are being retained by professional fundraisers. Oftentimes it's a very small percentage of the donation that ultimately goes to the charity. But I do want to point out that it can be challenging to accurately compare different forms of professional fundraising. For example, the cost associated with in-person fundraising, so the individuals out on the street trying to get you a donation, the cost associated with that will be much higher than the fundraisers that solicit via phone calls or direct mail. And similarly, some campaigns focus on things like sustainer donations, which might be a small amount every month, but expected to have contributions year over year, or legacy donations, where some organizations encourage people to include that organization in a bequest in their will. So many of these campaigns have significant upfront costs, and oftentimes the donations or the revenue are not realized in the same year that's being reported. So it can be difficult to make broad assumptions about this data without knowing the specifics of how a campaign is operated, or some of the specifics of that. But there's no doubt that some of these fundraisers have significant costs associated with these campaigns, and oftentimes these costs far outweigh the donations that are received. So we frequently get questions about why we can't put some laws in place in this area or better regulate this industry, and people are usually surprised to find out that professional fundraising and the fees or financial arrangements tied to that fundraising is considered protected speech. And the Supreme Court has basically said that states are hard-pressed to put limits on fees associated with soliciting, or in any way limit a charitable organization's ability to go out there and solicit for donations. So instead, we focus on making this information available to the public to access, and use opportunities like this to educate the public about charitable fundraising and how best to make their donations count. And I think that's a good transition into our next slide here.
Thank you, Sean. So as you can imagine, there's a wealth of information that's available from our office about professional fundraisers and about public charities, but we do think it's important to think about ways that you can protect yourself, and that ways that you can advise your clients to protect themselves, particularly those of you who might be serving vulnerable populations who could be targets for charitable fraud, things that we should be mindful of going into this giving season. Our primary advice is ask questions. Any bona fide charity that's seeking your donation and bona fide professional solicitor is going to be happy to answer as many questions as you have, and to provide as much information as they can about their organization and about the fundraising that they're doing. You're right to be wary of a fundraiser who is hesitant to answer questions. You should be advised that you can always ask someone if they are a professional solicitor. You can ask them about their registration status with our office. They are required, if asked, to provide you with what percentage of your donation is going to go directly to the charity and what percentage will be retained by the professional solicitor. If you'd like that information, you can simply ask. If they don't provide it to you, we'd advise seeking a different way to make a donation to that charity. It can be helpful for you to know where the charity is located. Are they in fact local, or are you getting a call from a national organization, and does that impact the decision you'd like to make about your donation? You can ask the person who's reaching out for the donation how your donation will be used, or if the caller has any information that they can send to you in writing so that you can take time to sit down with that information before you make your decision. We'd advise you to beware of emails or social media posts that may direct you to donate to fake or copycat charities. It's always worth that extra minute to go directly to the charity's website to confirm how their donation platforms are set up, and to make sure that the web addresses match or that the phone numbers match before you make your donation. Never give a credit card number out over the phone or to someone in person unless you are completely confident in the validity of that charitable organization and of that professional solicitor. You can also seek to find out, to verify the validity of that professional organization or solicitor by visiting our website and seeing their public filings, making sure that they're a registered organization. Certainly, if you have questions, we also encourage you to call our consumer hotline, and we'd be happy to help point you towards that information. If you are going to be making a credit card donation, it's helpful to ask that about recurring charges. Ensure that if you intend to make a one-time donation, that you are not signing up for a recurring charge. When possible, we do advise that you make donations by check instead. If you have any uncertainty about the person who's reaching out to you or the organization that's requesting your donation, ask to write down the name and contact information of the person you're dealing with, whether in person or by phone, and call the charity itself and verify that that person works for the organization or that that organization is in fact doing the work that they have purported to be doing and that they're using the funds the way that you believe they are intended to be used. As I mentioned, verifying information about a charity or professional solicitor is always a good first step. All of our filings are available for review on our website at this address listed here. If you're looking for a professional solicitor campaign, they're listed by the charity that's intended to be benefited. So if you get a solicitation from someone from the Red Cross, you can look up the Red Cross's information, and the professional solicitor campaigns that are associated with the Red Cross should be there as well to be able to verify the information of the person who's talking to you. If you have any questions when in doubt, consider donating to the charitable organization directly as opposed to a third party. You can go to their websites, you can go to their hotlines. Charities are always available to accept your donations, and so if you'd like to go directly to that charitable organization as opposed to working through a professional fundraiser or solicitor, that's always an option. Ultimately, our biggest advice for you in this giving season is to take your time to give wisely, to advise your clients and those individuals you may serve during this time of the year that we see an increased volume in solicitation requests and in fundraising requests, that it's okay to ask for more information and to hang up the phone and call back if you do want to donate, or to seek out more information online or in person from one of these organizations. When in doubt, please reach out to our office, to our division. Our website address is listed here, will be in the materials that's provided to you. This number at the bottom of the screen, 617-963-2315, is our charity's hotline. We have a great team of compliance staff who can answer your questions if you have difficulty looking up any organization, or if you run into any suspected fraud. We'd love to hear from you. We're always happy to take complaints from consumers and from interested parties, because it's our goal to make sure that the charitable sector is as transparent and accountable as possible, and hearing from you all is one important way that we can continue to do that work.
All right, thank you everyone for joining our webinar today. We really appreciate it. This last slide has some resources, some general resources from our office. You can see our consumer hotline there, and if you'd like to actually file an e-complaint, you can do that as well. A PDF copy of this webinar is going to be sent out to everyone who did sign in. So thank you again. We've got some information right there. Again, we'll be sending out a copy of this PDF, of this PowerPoint as a PDF. We'll also be sending out a survey. Please, it only takes about 1 minute. It really does help out. Please try to fill that out. We'll be sending out a link to this recorded webinar in about a week and a half or so. So we'll be here for another 2 minutes. If you have any other additional questions, you can use the chat function. But if not, thank you for joining our webinar. Thank you, everyone.